Okay, this video is going to be in response to the TheGibby3340, right? And that's to do with this video here. 5 tools. The 5 tools that I use, that I grab or keep in the car, that I start using when I'm going to do a diagnostic. That's what this video is all about. The 5, it might not be the 5 that are totally going to diagnose a car, but it's the 5 that I usually start with. Next thing I did was watch a response to it, the 5 tools. The car's exposed, the 5 tools that he uses. One of the things that he was using that I don't use yet is the circuit breaker. So watching these 5 tools that you use might just show what it is I should put in my shopping basket next when I'm looking to buy my next tool. So I thought I'd just show what I use. It may help somebody, may not, but anyway, here's the 5 tools that I use when I'm going to go and do a diagnostic, the stuff that I keep in the car. Okay, I'm going to look at 5 things I use when I go to look at a car or diagnose it. The first thing is a scan tool. I've used this one a lot. It's getting a bit out of date now. I can't update this one for free anymore, but I could buy a new one. This one, the buttons are starting to wear out, but I needed a scan tool to get a code to point me in a direction. The live data was quite good on this one. There's not much bidirectional control. So it's a lot cheaper, so I just used to bidirection control using a power probe or a vacuum pump, something like that, to bidirectional control to save me money, by a more expensive scope at the time I got this. I have got a different scope now, but that's the first thing, is a fairly decent scan tool. The next thing I use is a power probe. This one I don't use that much. It's okay, it gives you the voltage and stuff, not like the power scope that I had. You could quickly look for some sort of a signal if there was a duty cycle. That was handy. In this case, I can't do that. I do have a fair few accessories. And even change it to put 5 volts out at the end with that instead of 12 volts at the tip when you power it up. This one's used quite a lot though, for, like I say, when I'm doing bidirectional control or bench testing stuff. I kind of use this to do that. My Ortel that I had, the power scope, actually ended up breaking, so I don't use that one anymore. Okay, the next thing I use, and again this helps with the bidirectional control of bench testing, is this gauge, because it allows you to do vacuum, to give it a vacuum, or to give it pressure, to see if things move, like checking turbo actuators, or anything that's a vacuum solenoid controlling anything, like an EGR valve or whatever it is. You could also just use it as a vacuum gauge, which is handy for testing things. What else do I use? Try and think. This one I definitely use a lot, you know, if I'm going to a job though. These other things, the 5 things that I would at least like to keep in the car for a starting place, like to get the code reader, power probe, and this vacuum gauge, and vacuum pump. A few adapters, I put an extra couple of adapters in there as well. The next thing, the 4th thing, or in no real order, just the next thing I would carry is this Noid light set. This one I use a lot for a lot of things, like quick replacement of unplugging stuff like a washer pump or a vacuum solenoid. The same end seems to fit in a lot of different parts. And see if it powers up for a quick test, or replacing a horn and trying one of them. 2 different regular test lights as well, for the same kind of idea. This one's LED. This one I've also used to replace a fuse. If a fuse keeps blowing, I put that in and it lights up brightly, and when I find the short circuit, it goes dim or goes out totally. So that is used for that one when I've got a short on a wire. It's a great tool as well. You can just see if it pulses as well for the proper use for the injectors and for ignition coils. But it's more than just injectors that I use that for. It's to see the solenoids as well, if that flashes them. Replaced oil actuators and tried that, plugged that in, and that does the same thing. It allows you to clear a fault code, so at least you'd know that the wiring is okay all the way to it, and it lights that, but obviously there's going to be no response from what you're checking. Some of the time it's just to check the circuitry, make sure everything's okay there. So that's the fourth thing to show you. Okay, my fifth tool is going to be this, because I used to use the Oscilloscope instead of a power probe. I mean, it was like an hotel version, and that had the scope built in, so it was handy if you only seen, like on a multimeter you might only see a low voltage, like 2 volts, but it's actually battery voltage duty cycle, so to know whether you have a load problem on a wire, like a voltage drop, you could use the hotel and quickly go into the scope and see if it's duty cycle that's making it look like a low voltage. I can't do that anymore because that probe has broke, but this one is easy enough to connect up, and you can adjust the time scale rather than it being totally automatic and you've got no input into how you want it to look. This one you can set the time and the volts so you can get the image to look like how you want it to look. So this is my fifth tool that I would recommend. Well, not so much recommend, it's just what I do. And like I say, if these don't do what I want, I'll just go into my shed and get the next thing, but I can't carry everything with me, so this Mercedes Sprinter's got underboost problems. So I've used the vacuum gauge here, applying from the outlet solenoid, and it moves the actuators of the turbos, both of these on both turbos, so that's fine. From here onwards is fine. Test again on the other solenoid. I apply vacuum. That's bouncing about there, just right. That's got vacuum. Power up the solenoid, and you watch the vacuum just drop away. See that? I'll do it again. Vacuum. Lots of vacuum. I'm going to press the button on this. Drops straight away. The fact that this lights up green means I've got continuity already. So I'm going to apply vacuum again, like before. Lots of vacuum. Right, and just like before, I'm going to press the button on this. When I press it, it'll go to red. So it's a jumper cable, but next I'm going to check the control side, make sure I'm getting power down to these solenoids. Now everything's connected back up as it was when it came in. I'm going to back probe both of those wires and see what's going on when the engine's running. Okay, for this we can see duty cycle on that pin. So it's being controlled. Go on to the next one. Right there. Again, I've got duty cycle. I'll go into the other side. To show you, you can see it on there. I think so. Yeah, I got full on battery voltage, So that tells us it's ground side switched. It's not on all the time. This one I don't think can read properly. Oh man. There. So that's why I use the auto for a quick guide. You can do it all over an multimeter and a test light, but it's convenient when it's all on one tool. Apart from this one's broke. There it is, blip in the throttle. It's changing the duty cycle. So the controls get. That's the center wire on the boost pressure sensor. Now I'm applying pressure. It's very slow going up. Get that up to 10 psi. Yeah. 1.7. So it is reacting to it. PSI. It's 2 volts. I'll let the pressure off. This seems quite slow at changing.